Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. 313 is now in Wave 1 of the PTU, and for me personally, my first impressions and my opinion after a few days is it's extremely underwhelming. My expectations were actually set lower for this patch than any patch previously because of the number of features that were on there, and the exciting level of those features were quite low. And even then, it managed to disappoint. I think some expectations were the mission guys, like the missions are. My expectations were at least to see a little bit more reputation be added to those. But if they weren't, I had new mining components to fall back on. I did a lot of research over the last couple days. For a solo player, so which is most players in Star Citizen, especially with mining, they are irrelevant. They do seem to have some relevancy when it comes to larger ships like the Mole, or mining in groups of prospectors. Something like the one that raises the or lowers the amount of inert material you get has some value, but just really bad implementation of some of these components. For example, anything that raises your power of your laser is so nominal it doesn't do anything. Anything that lowers resistance, so nominal it doesn't do anything. So the meta still is Lancet laser or Helix laser with a surge and some other consumables combined of your choice, basically. So yeah, nothing's really changed there. And the title of today's show is Star Citizen making enough progress? This patch is definitely one of the patches that doesn't feel like they've made a lot of progress, because it does seem like it was a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Reputation. They talked about a lot of what they can do, but not what they did do, right? So there's a lot of things there. There is some things I would like to look on the roadmap, specifically for 314. And we're going to take a quick look at that here. There is quite a bit of, I guess, big things that are coming for 314. For example, I mean, all this is tentative, of course, so things can move, but the expectation would be to see Crusader in 313 with the removal of Levski, that this was making room for that. FPS radar and scanning, weapon changes, personal inventory is a big one. Improvements to scanning, healing. So this is like a big medical kind of gameplay start patch. Hacking tech, missile operator mode, sort of whatever. Let's see, and yeah, more mining tools. So Grey Cat mining tool for healing, and the Cure Life medical tool, as well as the module swapping in the Retaliator is a big kind of tech hurdle thing that they've been looking to do. So, you know, things like the Caterpillar eventually having swappable stuff is also a big deal. And then 315 has a few things that look kind of interesting as well. Believe it or not, this one is pretty cool. Player interaction experience. These are like better tooltips, basically. And mag stripping, I think, will be cool as well. Sort of more of a survival element to the game, which is kind of nice. So 315 and beyond doesn't show a lot. So for a progress this year perspective, I'm not seeing a lot. I wasn't expecting a lot. But the main thing that I would like to take a look at here and touch on is this. We expect to get the Planet Crusader and the Orison landing zone in 314. And we slide over to 316, scroll up, V2 then. So essentially an entire year of development for one landing zone. Are they making enough progress? Are they moving fast enough? Most systems do not have the amount of landing zones that Crusader does. But that is definitely a concern for the future of Star Citizen and how long these systems may take to finish. Do we need that many systems to play the game Star Citizen? I don't feel that way. So still how I feel is what is underwhelming about 313 is the lack of improvements to the experience that we could have now, rather than, well, we have to wait for server meshing, well, we have to wait for this, well, we have to wait for that in order for these things to happen. I think they could have done a much better job with the mining components. I would have loved to see more reputation, more missions locked behind more reputation in the game, rather than kind of seeing a progress bar go up. But I think with reputation, it's a good step. But I've monologued for quite a long time already, so I'm going to stop. We have quite a few callers on the list, and we're going to see what they think. So in general, callers that are listening, your thoughts on 313 and your thoughts on the rest of the year of Star Citizen, and your almost your patience level. I know we need to be patient. I know we need to wait for server meshing. It's hard though. It's hard. So just kind of, this is one of those patches where I didn't really know what to talk about, but how do you not talk about the pacing right now? Because it feels, I'm waiting for the ramp up, and I don't know when we're going to see it based off of what we're seeing now, right? So I think it does have to come post-server meshing, but yeah. So our first caller is Johnny Morgan. Hey, Johnny, what's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on?
Not
hey,
much.
I'm on live. Okay, so I'm muted. Thanks for having me on. Am I good or too loud?
You're fine. I'll deal with that.
So, Mike, this is a really good answer to the call for me to jump into. I've been waiting for one that's somewhat related to my professional background. I am not a game developer in any way, but I have worked in software, and I worked in startups, and I worked 10 years in one that, I went from system administrator, and then I was a chief technical officer for this startup, and 10 years into it, and had a great exit, etc. So I understand the software development life cycle, and I've also, after that, moved into product management. And that's kind of where I'm going to focus most of my talk about and my discussion about. So on 313, yeah, I'm with you on that, 100%, right? My personal issue, and this is coming from a professional view of CIG, is that they've done a fantastic job of getting out of startup mode, right? Really loose, over-promising these big things, under-delivering on stuff, finally getting the funding stream and the growth of the company to a level where your organizational structure comes about, and now you see all these separate teams, they're working really well. Their velocity has increased, right? So on agile development, we're tracking velocity and how fast developers move compared to what they predict. So they are getting better on that. That's great. However, and I think everyone's pain point as a consumer and a customer comes down to the product itself. We know we can have a good product experience on it. Xeno's threat just showed us if they drop 10 players off, the experience of the game for the players becomes, it was a huge leap. Like, it wasn't perfect by far, right? But
no,
like the FPS guys did stuff. Like they were actually, aiming around corners. When they finally caught up, there was a lag on them spawning, etc. AI worked relatively well. It was hard to take down those Xenothreat arrows, etc. It was a really fun experience, and it was just knocking 10 players off. So from my side, I really see CIG lacking a product focus. They don't really have it as a job role there, and product managers, I think, would help alleviate some of the disconnect they have between the goals of their product, the jobs that players do within it to, get that great player experience that they're looking for. So we all do different jobs, right? Mining, bounty hunting, PvP, etc. We engage in these roles. And then for me, my big slice I really like is the player interaction, right? When I bump into someone and I talk to them and they'll use VoIP, and when the VoIP's working, and I've worked a lot to understand it now, and my hint for everyone is that stupid little toggle at the very top under active members, which looks like you can't turn it off at all because it has a slash through it, is actually the master switch for VoIP. If you turn it off, it will turn itself back on, and it 99% of the time fixes all VoIP issues. Anyway, my slice is I really like that interaction, right? This is what I play the game for, and I wanted to do these gameplay loops, and Xeno was great, right? It focused us all into a spot where we are interacting with each other. It was amazing. So we know as players they can give us that experience, and it's really frustrating frustrating that they won't listen to us. They don't have, like, they have a customer service, and they're really good on taking feedback on bugs, right? They treat us as QA. We do sign on for it. I'm doing air quotes on that. Sorry, I know I'm monologuing a lot. I just want to get through and give you the time too.
You're good.
And I'm going to let you respond to what I'm saying here.
No, I'm listening. I'm just trying to figure something out while you're talking, basically. So I'm not ignoring you.
If I'm talking too fast, please ask me to slow down. I do have a habit of doing that. But
you're fine.
I pitch startups and stuff like that, so I get a lot of what they're doing. And I really like to see the growth. Like, honestly, it was you and Meyer that converted me to this game in 2018. It was December of 2018. It was Christmas, right? I was watching you guys for, I think, months now. Your YouTube videos, etc. CIG, I have a relationship with Chris Roberts in the sense that I am that old wing commander guy that Noodle called it, talked about that demographic slice that plays this game.
Yep,
I am old, too. Right? I'm in my late 40s. I played it as a kid on the shitty hardware, the first one all the way up. My first experience of seeing Clive Owen, the actor, was in Privateer.
Privateer 2, yeah.
Yeah, I saw him, and then I saw a movie, and I'm like, that's the guy from Privateer. What the hell? Anyway, so I love his games, but then Freelancer, Starlancer, I got burned on, right? That was my Star Citizen with Chris Roberts. I got super hyped about Chris doing this game with this simulated world, and we know Chris's goal, which is great. And we kind of know Tony Z's goal, right? He wants to make this AI that will translate from what's going on in the background and have this economy that runs and all these things, etc. But the rest of the gameplay loops, we have no idea what their goals are with them. And because they don't have goals. They have features that they're doing. So they have this kind of waterfall development is what it's referred to versus agile. Waterfall is when you plan everything out into this sequential pipe. These are the roadmaps people really want and see, and then you tackle down that sequential pipe. It's really good for building like a nuclear power plant or a building. Like Morph would be familiar with that type of planning out the whole big project and then executing it in a sequential manner. Agile development is just this big muddy mess where you're recognizing crap, like we're trying to create an animated movie, but at the same time invent the whole concept of animation. And it's really difficult to predict on how we're going to be able to tackle down some of the pain points we hit. And this is where product comes in and interacts between all the stakeholders. This is what the product manager's job. If you're interested in it, I highly recommend Business Model Canvas and Value Prop Design as 2 books.
Okay.
Super easy to use. You print a canvas out and you start diving into really those 3 slices. What are the jobs, right, the person's doing? What are the gains and what are the pain points that they hit? Knowing that pain points mostly motivate people and gains kind of keep them. They retain them, right? And then from the flip side of that, you go, oh, okay, well, what gain creators can I create? What kind of, pain relievers can I create? And then from that, I figure out my product and services that I'm doing. So I'm looking for a story experience, right? So when Tony Z talks about it, I'm like, I love listening to you, Tony, but you gotta focus up on goals and really tell us what you're delivering. Like the Xeno threat and then the Ninetales event that he's talking about is golden opportunities to bring and interact PvPers and non-PvPers and really get their big data on the back end so they know who to try to funnel together, right? Because we're all going to live in one universe at some point. I know server mesh, and guys, it's 2 years. It's 2 years. Set your expectations.
Don't even say a number because I don't even know if it would be
2 years plus. Yeah. It's 2 years plus. And honestly, with road mapping, and you guys have all experienced this, and this is what I hate as a product manager. I tell stakeholders, anything past 3 months is pure fiction. I'm just writing fiction for you. So if you want me to write you a story, I'll write you a story. But that's all it is, man. And that's all I'm committing to. I'm not committing past the 3-month roadmap because you're going to change. Customers we're going to interact with. We're going to get it tested, et cetera, et cetera. Product owner is the other guy, Vijar. I'm seeing the chat there. Product owner. And they don't have a lot of that. I've been looking because I'd love to work at CIG. I'd love to bring product to them. The guy that's in charge of Theaters of War, I forget his name, Sean Tracy. Yeah, he's a product-orientated guy. I really liked when I saw they brought him in because he was like, okay, Tau, we're going to just try to iterate really on it. We're going to try to get feedback, but they don't have the culture in the company yet for it, and they don't have the institutional capacity to take player feedback in and really internalize it and know how to manage it. There's some tools I'd love to see them use. Feedback and feedback loop. It's really great. It's stuff that then brings all the stakeholders in, forces players to really choose what they want, because you know what everyone will
do. What's a stakeholder in this situation?
You're a stakeholder, right? Because you are in a demographic slice of all the people that contribute to the platform.
Yeah.
So keep in mind CIG, and so get back to your original question: is Star Citizen making enough progress? No. but CIG, the company, is. And they have a different set of corporate goals that they don't really communicate well, but they are definitely making a media platform. The other book I recommend people read is Platform Scale. Really, really interesting. It gets into the dive of how platforms operate and all the manifesto and rules of them. But most of it revolves around people like yourself, a producer on their network, on their infrastructure, who brings content to people in the game. I do the same thing. Like, I'll talk to them in voice, I'll give them a little story, right? You get them working in mining, you get them working in people. Like, you bring a community together, so you produce content on the network, and then players consume it that you meet in game or your community, etc. Right? This is the interaction that they manage. That's all CIG is doing, is managing that interaction between us. And they are doing a somewhat poor role on it. But I get why they're not in that phase. I'm really hoping that they build that capacity into beta.
Are they not in that phase? I mean, like, does it come back to the age-old answer
they're in
of
R&D.
Server meshing isn't here, so we're still...
No, that has nothing to do with server meshing.
Okay, I didn't think so.
It has nothing to do with server meshing.
I thought that might have been what you were
implying. It's just a technology and feature. No, it's that they're still in R&D mode. Their core pillars, until they get that done, they just won't have the institutional capacity. So speaking on that other guy that you were talking about of throwing more devs, no, it doesn't work. You have diminishing returns really fast. So they had to horizontal. This is what I predicted this, and they did it. I loved it.
Hold on, before you keep going, because I didn't talk about that in like what the recording would be. So there was a video from Gamers with Drinking Problems, or Drinkers with Gaming Problems, I think that's the name of the YouTube channel, where he implied the amount of time that Star Citizen is taking doesn't matter. It's the amount of man hours that matter. And he used Red Dead Redemption as an example of Red Dead Redemption has 1,600 devs. If Star Citizen has 400 and something in 2019, it would take Star Citizen devs 24 years to finish Red Dead Redemption. And that's just not how it works. And it was like really, really bad. It was like a horrible take. And we're going to kind of touch on, like, that's sort of what spawned the idea of this
it's not 100% wrong.
Podcast.
Like, there is a bit of truth in that, right?
Sure.
If you do scale up the devs, you get more velocity, you have better, etc. But no,
but more devs aren't going to make server meshing come faster because one dev writes the code or two devs, and that's it.
They have to invent it. And for the context of Star Citizen. So it's a known unknown, right? So it's not like they're breaking new ground. It's just a known unknown. It's not an unknown unknown. This is what referring to potential threats and problems and pain points you're going to hit in the development one. You're always looking to go, okay, well, we know server meshing exists, but we don't know how to do it for Star Citizen yet. Known unknown. But we have no idea what some of the problems down the road might be, so unknown unknowns are the real pain in the ass. They're kind of out of that territory now. They're into the known unknowns and tackling them down. On the dev side on it, I think they just need to get more product focused, really, and really bring their stakeholders together. They do not have, like, customer advisory boards. Like, they have Evocati, which is great, but those guys are just really focused QA. And it's great. Like I'm saying, they're good at taking in tech and QA stuff.
Okay.
My structure
Let me
for them,
stop
if
you.
I had...
Let me stop you for a second.
Can I make this... Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish up, and then I'll...
I was just going to say, what I would like to see them on a product-wise is PU, 40 players. PTU, up all the time. All the goddamn time, same version. 50 to 60 players. There you go. Players that want a great experience can go into the lower count one. Majority of us will go in there to have fun. PTU will get the new patches and everything, but the people that are willing to put time in on the testing and write really good tickets, etc., they can go do the testing. That's it.
Okay.
That's what I would like to see from a product side in the short term.
When you mean product focus, you all, like, when you're taking, like, you've mentioned, like, feedback, right? And feedback loops. So what I think the issue kind of is, and why it feels like they're not making progress, is that they do ask for feedback. What they do with that feedback is
completely opaque.
Yeah. So
there's something called a private or a customer feedback policy. I would advise them to look into it. It's the product manager thing. You write this document, you publish it, and then you adhere to the process and policies within it. And it tells your customers what we're going to do with your feedback, and you adhere to it. It's really critical. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so let's use, like, PvP, for example. That was a really big podcast last week, right? These guys have been providing the same, like, it sounds like they're crying but they are, but they're crying now because they've been giving the same crying in a like the literal sense, not the negative connotation of it.
Okay.
They're crying because they've been giving the same feedback for years. And the changes that are being made do not reflect the feedback that you're giving. I've given feedback on mining. The changes that are being made do not reflect the feedback on that. So is from your perspective of the world that you come from, is that the issue, and why it may feel like to me that we're not making the progress? It's because we're not being listened to, and they have a different perception of what the game is because they know what XYZ steps that are coming are, and we don't?
So in that side, I would say that, the feedback is probably not even making it to the correct decision makers. So sure, Noodle, you, everyone, but how is it? If we could slice CIG open and crack it open and look at it,
the feedback is getting.
I would
there. So
take
that out
of
your
head. The conversation is getting.
Yeah, the feedback, like the words of the players are getting to the appropriate devs.
The words of the players are, but the data underlying it is probably not.
Okay.
Because it's not organized in a structured way that would support a product manager's position to go in and say, because this is the hardest part of a product manager's job, is telling, the founder they have an ugly baby.
Do you know who Bayer
to polish
is?
A turd. No.
That's his whole job. He like, from my understanding of what he does, he was a streamer at one point. And then he got a job in either QA or player support or something like that. And he's moved his way through the company. And where he's really found his role there is taking the feedback from like Evo.
That's good. He's getting to a product.
Yeah, so he is kind of that product guy you're looking for.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
That's
actually nice to hear.
What they're doing with it seems to be like, let's use like capacitors. I think capacitors are the best example of the weirdness of things. Players have been giving feedback on like accelerations of ships for a long time, and they have said, we want to try this first, then we might go back to that. So it's like they're listening to it, but they have a different idea for the solution. And for me, I always kind of trust the game developer on the different idea for the solution rather than the player, because they just have a better understanding of the inner workings
100%.
of it, and like maybe went to school for game development. And like, instead of being Mr. Armchair Developer, I'm like, all right, well, let's see what happens with capacitors first, before we get upset about the nature of like speed in PvP.
I agree with that only in the sense if the developers have clear goals from the product side. So if they've been given really clear direction, absolutely, developers are fantastically creative people. I always tell stakeholders, because there's one of the things I hate hearing in a meeting is, why don't we just do this, or this should be easy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not the one doing it, and you're not giving them clear enough direction. So yes, it would be easy if you give them a very tight spec and that they know exactly what the goals of the product is, and they will deliver this great solution that will probably be better than what players could come up with. Armchair deving is terrible. It's backseat driving. Now, that doesn't mean that players can't come up with a better product and have some really great product ideas and really say, hey, goal-wise, right, from the PvPers, they were clearly stating what they want goal. Please funnel us into people that want our interactions.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for.
They don't want to fight people. Like, okay, they want to fight people that don't want their interactions. Like, that is part of it, trust me. But they want to fight people that signed up for the potential of it.
So I'll use Tessa D, because I know Tess and I love her, and I could use her a great example of that, right? She doesn't really want their interactions, but if they happen, they add spice to her night and etc., and she will lean into it and have a really good time enjoying it, right? Sure. Like, she's a great example of that. And I think players, have to accept that, and hopefully there'll be a middle line where players, when they know if they're in this area, they might bump up into it, so you can get a little bit of that thrill and like adrenaline spike. Because if that's the greatest thing about it, DayZ, that adrenaline spike from when you bump into someone after not seeing anyone for hours, you just it's just crazy. Star Citizen gives me that same type of feedback loop when I bump into someone, and I've recognized like Cutlet, or I've bumped into Moist a couple times, owned my ass. Same with Dark, owned my ass a couple times, but I never seek them out. I'm just waiting for that day where I organically bump into them, and then we have gameplay loops that encourage that, so I don't have to wait 6 months before it happens. I can actually jump on and be like, oh, if I reasonably want to get funneled into an environment that I'll interact with these people, I can go over here and do this. Sorry,
does the amount of progress CIG or Star Citizen is making in the year 2021, does the fact that they're not making significant progress in 2021 matter?
I think they're making great progress as a company on the tech side.
I like that point that you make, by the way, the company versus the game.
Yeah, I mean, from the game, bunch of other components, right? That
I mean, from a game standpoint.
Forget. But from a game standpoint, we'll see with Squadron 42 and Tau. They need, from a business model development side, to get Squadron 42 at the door, because it's the way they move and grow their revenue stream away from just fundraising model. Now they have a product they can sell and engage on, and like, it's just the first episode they're delivering, right? There's supposed to be like 16 episodes or something in it. So Chris gets his
chapters.
Three chapters. Okay, 3 chapters. I didn't really follow it. I'm gonna play it, but I haven't bought it yet, and I'll pay full price for it when it gets.
As a Wing Commander fan, Johnny, come on, dude. I
told you, man. My relationship with Chris was burned.
Successor.
Freelancer and Starlancer, man. It was you guys. It's the community that converted me, not Chris. I love Chris, though, and I think he's done a really good job of figuring out his own pain points in the industry and, being the crowdfunder still.
Yeah.
Right. Still the crowdfunder in history. And they're building this, what I tell people is I think CIG has the potential to rival Amazon as the media platform of choice. They're spinning out other studios. They're starting partnerships with letting people access to their tech stack so they can start building on it. They're demonstrating you can do a single player game, very focused multiplayer, and an MMO on this. You can do media creation on it. Mark my words. And if you read Platform Scale, you'll understand why. Just read the first chapter. But you'll start to see it too, and that they're doing a platform development play, not a game engine.
You were going so good, Johnny. Now you're flying away.
That's my long term. That's my pie in the sky.
I think from building technology standpoint for like other games or other companies or things like that, sure. I don't know what you mean by media platform though.
I should say game engine platform that they can license out to other studios.
That makes a lot more sense. You made it sound rival Amazon in the sense of Amazon Prime Video or something. Like, I was like, where is he going?
No, sorry. Dominating an industry the same way Amazon ended up doing, right? Because Amazon was not a big dominant player at the start, but now they are. Now they are the player, right? And if CIG gets out there with a really smart licensing, and this is how I think they might scale, is say, hey, you can license our platform, our software. We'll give you all these massive credits. Build a system.
Yeah.
Right. It will also teach you how to do it, and all these indie shops and all these little dev shops. There's a great horizontal scale for you, and then you give them access to this tech stack, and you just kill off EA and these shit companies that. Sorry, I'm getting off topic, but the financing industry is what I hate about AAA, right? Because you have shareholder value. You have these guys that want ROI within 2 to 3 years. It forced Cyberpunk out the door years before it should have went out the door, right? Et cetera, et cetera. We see it over and over. We all hate EA for it. Anyway, I'm going
to give you the timer.
Overtalked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting the timer.
All right, love you, bud. Love all you streamers, all the bad ones, all the good ones, all the griefers, all
Wait, who's the bad? Name the bad ones. Who's the bad one?
Oh, like Chaos Squad. People see them as bad. I love them.
See, I didn't expect you to say names. I don't know who that
is. They'll love the fame. They're infamy. Anyway, I will see you in game, Mikey Mike. And again, thank you for converting me to Star Citizen. I would not have gone into this game if it wasn't for you demonstrating that the gameplay loops were there, and as long as you engage with people, you could have a lot of fun in it.
Yeah,
cheers.
True.
I'm out.
Later, buddy. That was a really interesting call. I love his point of view of they're making progress as a company, but not as a game yet, and it may not matter that much. So that was actually a really interesting call, and not what I was expecting, and from a not what I was expecting in a positive way. So thank you, old man Johnny Morgan. I appreciate that, man. That was sick. All right, now we got a staple. We got the dock. By the way, we normally have the bars go up and down. They're not working today. So in the beginning of old man Johnny Morgan's call, I was trying to figure out how to get that to work. They're not working. So we're just going to have people's Discord icons up there. So, what's up, Doc?
Hello, I'm good. I'm fine.
So, we'll start out with Doc. Like, I don't care about 313. I got Elite Dangerous to play.
Yep.
Well, that sucks too, huh? So, now what?
Yeah, well, it's not as bad, but it's it, it sucks, but it's like an interesting way of sucking. That sounds bad.
Yeah, that did sound bad.
It sucks if you make the wrong choice in Odyssey. Like
In
as
Elite
of now-
Dangerous, you mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
As of now, like in the Odyssey Alpha,
How much of 313 did you play?
about 2 years of it, I think.
So you played of 313. You played 2 days. Oh, I gotta change
Yeah.
your name. I forgot. I'm not used to this. I do it differently now. What have you done?
I've seen all of it.
Okay.
Like I'm excited. It's just like, okay, this is cool. Like it's not like, wow, it's awesome. It's just, yeah, it's alright. It's interesting, but
It's
not
312 with a few extra things, and 312 was 311 with a few extra things. So that's kind of like the point of today's show is like, when's that next like punchy? Where's the punch?
I don't know.
You know,
I don't really see anything that's like interesting on the map. Anyway, like anything that won't shift off or get pushed off because that's how it happens now.
yeah, like anything past 314 is hard to look at with any like real confidence, right? So
yeah,
it's a little bit tough. Like those aren't even committed. Everything's even everything in 314, I believe, is still tentative and not even committed, let alone like ready, like gonna happen or whatever. Yeah, so it's like as somebody who would like to play the actual game, I know the answer will always be just be patient. It's an alpha, all these things. If anybody just like straight up says no, they're not making enough progress in the comments or anything like that, or if they say it's an alpha, I know you like actually didn't listen to the show, because that's not what the kind of point of it is. It's more of like, from a gameplay standpoint, are they focusing enough on things to keep us interested? Are they focusing enough on the things that will have you engaging with the game world? And I know you were so excited for I know you were so excited for Elite Dangerous because you weren't engaging with Star Citizen anymore because you were bored, and 313 didn't look interesting. Like I know I might be putting words in your mouth, but is that right?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not really like in Star Citizen anymore. It's just like, why? Like I've had it for like since 2020 now, and it's kind of popping off now almost.
Well, yeah, and why is it dropping off, right? Because there hasn't been any like kind of big like
exciting anymore.
You know, like I would point out like a few like major big moments. One of them was when Hurston came in. That was a big one, right? Object container streaming. We had some decent frame rates then. Arena Commander 1.0 was another big one. The next one, I think the next really big jump was probably mining. And then it was kind of stagnant for a while. And then we had the release of ArcCorp, which was kind of a push. Star Marine was another one. But in recent times, I guess Microtech was one, but it was less exciting because it was similar to the ones we've had in the past.
Yeah.
Like, there hasn't been like a big drop of something that was like, whoa. Invictus was like a weird thing.
Invictus was strange.
Yeah. Would you say that the Xeno threat was one of those maybe?
Yeah, I would say that.
Did it didn't I wouldn't. I feel like it could have been, but it wasn't.
Yeah, like it was almost there, but it just wasn't the thing.
Yeah. I think. What do you think? Like about this? We don't know much about it. The Ninetales lockdown or the Invictus event.
It's.
I mean, none of us know. I guess it's kind of a stupid question I asked you.
Yeah.
I think maybe the like Invictus was like a big deal last year. All it was big ships quantum traveling around. Obviously, we saw Xenothreat. There's some big things that they did there in comparison to what Invictus was last year. I wonder what the event will entail this year. I would be surprised if it was only like, hey, look at these ships and buy these ships. My expectations are to see something in game that's like maybe that's the Ninetales event was the timing around Invictus. So that's my expectations, but I don't know. That could save it. That could save the lack of progress issue because it feels that way, but I'm trying to this is like a therapy session for me. Like I'm trying to work my way through wow, it feels like they're not making any progress, but they could. And here's how they could. And it could that like the year could be salvaged. But I don't know. You know. Yeah. What would salvage it for you? What's a big thing that would bring you back?
I think the reputation stuff. Because they've added the that app now that like was all the stuff.
Yep. And the app kind of needed to come before the actual additional rep, right? Like you needed to be able to read it.
They haven't like added anything in to actually like say, hey, if you do this, then you'll get this. That's what I want, like out of rep.
Do most I really only play Star Citizen now and it's escaping me. Do most games tell you what the reward at the end of a quest line is before you start it? Or do you find out what that reward is at the end?
You find out like at the start.
Doesn't seem very Star Citizen to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right? Because like you go to the Vaughn, like let's say Vaughn missions or Miles missions. I mean, right now the rewards don't exist. They're just money, right? It's just more money.
Yeah.
But the expectation would obviously be adding rewards. I hope that's a thing they can do this year. Like for me, there's two things. There's two major things that, regardless of performance, regardless of frame rate, regardless of no event, like it's not an event, it's two things, maybe three. Let's try three things. More survival elements in the sense of we get hot, we get cold, we get thirsty, we get hungry. Allow me to, instead of just go to a place and buy the solutions to those problems, better ways to find them on my own, maybe create them in some way. The second thing would be more survival elements in the sense of looting other players and NPCs. That's kind of
that's a big one.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing of finding those things. Maybe they're on the bodies of the NPCs that you kill. So you're kind of less tied to the gameplay loop of watching my UEC go up and spending a little bit on it of these small things, and then like kind of that ties you closer to the game world, and then progress on things like missions and server meshing matter less. And then the last thing would be allowing items to be rewardable through missions.
Yeah.
Those 3 things would save the year for me, I think.
Yeah, that's the same for you as well.
Yeah.
And
I mean, is there anything else that you would do differently? Or, like, anything else that comes to mind that would be, like, on your Mount Rushmore of 2021 things?
I don't know, because, like, salvage is an interesting one.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it'll come this year. But, you know, we can all hope that it'll come this year, and it probably won't.
I mean, they talked about refueling. They talked about repair and salvage a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a chance. The tooltips thing in 3.15, no. If they get that in, that'll be an interesting thing to have like in the game for players that are what was like.
It's not even good for new players. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Instead of being like on the bottom of the screen, it's actually somewhere where they can actually see it.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's how you do it.
True. Well, I don't know, Doc. Now? Give me a rating. I should have done this with Johnny too. I'll do this with the rest of the callers. Give me a rating from 1 to 10 on your overall positivity level around Star Citizen after this patch.
I'd say it's about a 6, maybe a 7 for like SDF shields and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a 7 because SDF is actually like awesome in a way.
But it also doesn't work in a way, so it was like, man, like every like big feature was like it just missed.
Yeah, it just missed the mark. Just missed it. But it could be so good, but it just
3.13 was like the just missed the mark patch. Because if you guys don't know, this is clearly a bug, I think, but it could also be related to server performance, which we know is not going to get fixed this year. If you're flying at a fast speed, the SDF shields move slower than the ship, and you basically don't have shields.
They just fall off the ship.
Yep. You just don't have shields. So, like, what? So that's, it's kind of not a good thing. But, yeah. So, all right, Doc. I'm going to let you go, but that was good. That was a good call. A good therapy session. Do you feel better after our therapy session today?
Yeah. A little bit.
Me too. I'll talk to you soon, Doc. Later. All right. Let's bring on our next caller. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where I'm at with all that is it's a bit tough, but we're going to bring on Vertigo 1. Vertigo. How you doing, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So, is Star Citizen making enough progress?
In my mind, it's really hard to say because we can't see what's going on in terms of like all the what's going on with refactoring for iCache, server meshing, all that. If CIG could communicate that, which I think they tried to do through the progress tracker, the more that they can communicate that, where we can kind of feel like they're making progress and see what they're doing that's making progress, I think the more the better we would feel about this lull of stuff not being in game.
Am I unreasonable? Yeah. Am I unreasonable asking for things to do every 3 months? Improvements to the things that we do every 3 months? I might be. Like I'm asking like legitimately. That's not like one of those kind of questions.
I think with it being a live environment, and this comes down to CIG's like kind of catch-22 of, they're trying to build this core tech which breaks everything as they build it, and they're trying to have something that's playable at the same time. Like they have to. If they don't have stuff to keep people engaged, then like interest will wane, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that, but um, I do see little bits and stuff that are like, for example, oh, the SDF shield thing at high speeds is unfortunate, but to see the shield holes go away is kind of like, I don't know if you saw Disco Lando's tweet, but essentially like they had to fix the way that the hit registration worked.
Okay. I did not see the tweet, by the way.
I can post the link if you want.
That'd be great. Yeah. Well, yeah. While you're finding it, you can give me the overview of it.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not in the Twitch anymore because I get the echo. Maybe I'll just send it to.
You could send it to me through Discord if you want.
I just sent it to Zeus. I don't have you on.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, Zeus is probably better, and then he can post it. But
so
yeah,
so it was on. I saw it on Reddit, but anyways, I can read it out. It said, barring any bugs that may or may not appear, the conversion to SDF visuals in 3.13 requires the conversion to SDF shields themselves. They go hand in hand, can't have one without the other. And if the SDF shields work as they should, they will eliminate holes. The roadmap block, this is kind of a follow-up to that. The roadmap block in 3.14 is when the overall task is expected to be complete. But within that task are dozens of smaller tasks, many of which are already completed and needed for the 3.13 block. And then he said game dev is about iterations,
the usual.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't expect that to fix shields completely. And as that bug about the SDF shields lagging behind kind of proves that. But I mean, little bits like that at least show that things are getting looked at and fixed as they have time.
Yeah. And somebody said in chat, progress is obviously a relative term, right? Yeah. So my definition of progress is always going to be different than you, Joe Rune, or whoever, right? So, like, Joe Rune might feel like, oh, there was lots of progress this patch, and I feel like there was little to none, or at least little to none forward-facing progress. And even some steps back. I think mining was a step back. I think SDF shields was a step forward. But maybe not the step forward that we would have hoped them to be. I think reputation was kind of like not really a step forward or a step backwards. So
yeah, that one's interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it was just visuals. Now I can visualize my reputation. Great. So what more are you going to add? Like, how are you going to use all these amazing tools that you can add to reputation? When are you going to do that? So yeah, it's done a little bit of like positive and negative, but yeah, obviously it will never be fast enough. We all want to play the game today.
Yeah, I do think though that having those visuals actually is a big deal from a gameplay standpoint.
I agree.
Because otherwise we kind of have to guess or kind of tease it out by like inferring, oh, what missions are showing up, oh, my reputation must be this high.
Do you know how many times I've asked Luke in my Twitch chat, like, why am I not getting the X mission from, this mission giver? This does help with that.
Right. And on mining, like the UI used to almost tell you nothing. Like you'd kind of have to keep a mental track of like what you had mined and put in your hold, and I mean, like it's not a big deal if you just mine one rock and nearly fill up your hold with that.
But that's a 312 improvement. That's not really a 313.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, all that stuff is kind of cumulative, right?
Sure.
But like looking forward, I mean, there's some stuff on there that, like, I would say with the docking, that to me, like just trying it out in the PTU, it seems to me to be a very UI heavy feature. And I'm wondering if, I mean, like CIG has said in the past that UI was like one of their big bottlenecks, right? So with a lot of those features on the roadmap, like salvage, repair, refuel, medical, module swapping, ship-to-ship docking, a lot of that stuff may be there because they have their building blocks UI stuff available for the developers to actually use. So hopefully, like by the time things like Crusader and Aaron Halo and Pyro come out, we'll actually have the gameplay to go with them so that they're not kind of unplayable,
I think that was like probably the biggest takeaway from this week's Calling All Devs was these things that you've been waiting for have finally been prioritized and are probably not going to get pushed from the roadmap because they're needed for Pyro. The things like refueling.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is if Pyro gets pushed, so will the priorities, right?
Yeah.
Which I still believe server meshing required for Pyro, so how's that going to work?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it doesn't look like the Aaron Halo's going to make this year, but that to me seems like it would be very interesting from like a shipping, like cargo right now. There's not enough pinch points to kind of get that adrenaline rush of like going through a really dangerous
and we still have
corridor.
armistice zones.
Yeah. I mean, like, you've probably played Albion, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that
so
that is a gut-wrenching game.
Yeah, those like tight corridors that are, you're like trying to get through them so that you can get to the safe area. Yep. And we need something like that for shipping to be interesting to me. Like if all I'm doing is like going to like this rest stop, picking something up, going to another one, and there's not any kind of danger, like that wouldn't,
the feedback and again, this is like goes back to the are they making enough progress? Those things could easily be a reality now because they existed previously.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing where like we go back to the original call with Johnny was like, hey, we're giving our feedback, but it doesn't feel like they're listening. And that's the part that's like really getting frustrating as a player is like, are you listening to it and putting it on the shelf for later, or are you like not listening at all? I can't tell, because the idea of like, please bring back Jumptown and PvPers will have something to do something for them, but then at the same time, or Jumptown-esque. At the same time, you can provide that sense of danger and risk and reward for a miner or a cargo hauler. What happened to that?
I mean, I mean, my first, I guess, run-in with that was like way back before 3.0, where people would camp the ICC probe, They would camp Security Post Korea, and because of the map size being so small, the players were actually there were enough players around to actually run into somebody.
And that was 25 player servers back then too,
right?
I think, or 30. Yeah. So I mean, that's where the progress that's the progress I'm looking to make, is like the simple, easy wins that bring us together for different reasons. Right? You can make changes to mining that require multiple people. You can make changes to cargo hauling that bring that risk and reward. You can make changes to PvP to bring players together. And the amount of players per server, the things that require server meshing, all these things just don't matter as much right now. We all want them in the future, but I feel like there's not enough attention paid to small wins for right now, and that's why it feels like we're not making progress, because we all know they're making progress towards the end goal, but there's nothing to do right now to enjoy what we have.
Well, one good thing with the Xeno threat was that it gives them a chance to hopefully iterate on whatever next event they're going to do,
Yes.
so that for one, hopefully isn't so short,
And it becomes semi-regular, right?
right, and actually covers like both the PvP player base, the PvE player base. I mean, I straddle both. Sometimes I feel like PvP, sometimes I feel like PvE.
Yep.
But yeah, if they don't have the right environment or situations, then it falls on the players to create them.
Yeah.
And that's if you have an org or you have a group of friends to do it with, then that makes a big difference. But for somebody who's just hopping in for like a little bit of time, and like without those mechanics, it just isn't viable.
Agreed. Is there anything else you want to add before we let you go, though, Vertigo?
Let's see.
Feel like you kind of hit it or not?
I mean, like y'all brought up looting and stuff. I've already kind of found it interesting that like originally you couldn't loot the NPCs, FPS NPCs, but now you can actually go and pick up the guns off of them and
what I
store
mean
'em.
by looting, though.
Yeah. It would be nice if you could actually like if they had ore or whatever, you could pick that off,
Yeah.
or components, pick that off. But
Med pens,
med
food,
pens, yeah.
water, that kind of stuff.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's my big thing, is I feel like it doesn't just have to be players, it could be NPCs, and maybe you make like high loot areas that bring players together. Again, that's like the common theme here, that can make the game a little bit more interesting, like a more like Daisy element to the game from that perspective. I think could be interesting, but we'll have to see.
Yep.
I think that's sort of a direction they're going in, so it's hard to say that they wouldn't. But yeah, man.
Plus, it takes time from the time they get the feedback to the time that the developers start building something based on it to the time we actually get it could probably be, like a whole quarter. So it's a bit sad, but that's, I mean,
the problem is it seems to be an entire year.
Yeah.
Not a quarter. So instead of taking the feedback and having agreed. But I think that's the issue that I take with it, is that it isn't, right? Like, I feel like feedback should be taken and iterations or changes in priority should be made based on that feedback, but that doesn't really appear to be what happens. It appears that the feedback is given, and then all the priorities are still on the roadmap the way they are, and they don't rotate based on our feedback. They rotate based on what tech's available, what devs are available, this, that, the other thing that they always said, but our feedback's never involved in that aspect, is what it feels like. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but my impression is that it just isn't. I mean, just look at PvP. That's all.
Yeah.
Just look at PvP, right? But all right, Vertigo.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. All right, so we let Vertigo go. Vertigo, thank you so much for the call. Again, it was looking kind of iffy if we were going to have a show, so we're on to our last caller now. Johnny Morgan, thanks for calling in. Doc, Vertigo, you were the first three that made the show happen, and now we have Henrik. So we're going to bring Henrik in. Hello, Henrik.
Hello, Mike.
How are you?
I'm fine. What about you?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little sad. I wish we had a bit more to do in the game, but we don't.
With there were more content in with it.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of it is like, I get it. It wasn't going to be this huge patch or anything, but I thought I wouldn't have gotten bored on like day 2, right? Most patches I can play for like a month, and I feel like there's going to be a couple things I can do to keep things interesting, but overall, This is like the first patch in a long time that I could almost not play at all and be okay with it.
Yeah, I think this patch has probably been a lot of the back end have changed.
Yeah.
For example, the shield effects.
Well, and that's actually supposed to be more of like a forward-facing experience, right? Like the visuals and then the shield holes being closed up. But
exactly, yes.
I mean, out of everything, that's probably the most forward-facing one. Like even the UI, for Reputation, like forward-facing, absolutely. But the real exciting things is what they said. The work they did in tandem with it is the possibilities. And I would have loved to see, like, hey, could you have demoed a possibility of, like, just one possibility in the in this patch? You know, you say you could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it would have taken, but
I think it's primarily because they don't have the tools yet to create those things. They need a programmer in and give them the tools to say, this mission is only accessible when you reach this confidence level with this person.
Yeah.
They haven't clicked those two pieces together.
Not
They
yet.
make both of the pieces, but it doesn't have the bridge to connect the two.
Yep. And the one thing I don't like from it, which would be just a bit of feedback on it, I guess, is your Mobiglass, right? You get a message from the mission givers in your Mobiglass, but they don't show up on your Reputation yet. And I feel like if they contact you, that you would have some level of that career or confidence level with them that they wanted to contact you in the first place. So I'd love to see them show up in the Reputation UI just because they contacted you, that you got a little sliver of something with them, and then you can learn about them and decide whether or not this is somebody you want to build rep with. That's just like the weird...
Yeah, they should get a little in the green area if they're contacting you, unless it is a bounty mission. They're a bounty hunter. They're contacting you through. But yes, that would actually be a great idea to put it in, or to say when they have contacted you. So probably because they are in the same guild as someone else you have made a contract with, they should give a little bit of reputation because they have spoken highly of you, the other guy.
I mean, for the main question, you're still in school for game development, right?
Still in school for what's called programming.
Programming, but you want to apply it to game development?
I really want to go further that way, yes.
Okay.
I don't know which area. I think tool is the first allies where I'm going in. I look into first, as I'm simply making the tool for people that is making the game.
Gotcha. Is Star Citizen making enough progress to you?
It depends on which team you're looking at.
Sure.
Yeah. But
yeah, dive into that a little bit more. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I think the networking guy, I would really like to hear of what the state is, how what is the current bloggers, and that I don't think we have heard about that in quite a long time.
He does actually talk quite a bit. The problem is he just talks on Spectrum. So you gotta dive a little bit into it, but Clive's actually quite active.
Okay, I would like a ATC about it, or whatever it's called right now.
ISC.
Yes.
There's so many 3-letter SCL, ATC, ISC. I know it's. Emmy makes fun of me for that all the time, like the shortening of words into these little things. Like why do Americans do that? I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why?
It's simpler, man. Inside Star Citizen. That's so many syllables.
Yeah.
ISC.
Yeah, in Denmark we just setting it into one word. Yep. Probably. Inside Star Citizen.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So like, what else do you mean by it matters per team? Like, what matters to me is obviously the interactions of the actual game, not emergent gameplay elements, nothing like that. It's the actual touching of the game. And those guys just their priorities are elsewhere now, whether it's building these background elements or anything like that. And that's why it feels to me like they're not making enough progress for what I'm looking for. But as someone who has like some game development experience or is looking to get into that and plays lots of games.
Yeah, I think if we are looking at the live feature team, I don't think they have made enough progress in this past, because they should only look at how our feedback is doing right now, how the patches.
I feel like from a developer, like the number of developer standpoints, there's only two teams. I don't know how many teams how many people those teams are comprised of, but there's only two teams that focus on like actual gameplay features. So like under the gameplay tag.
Yeah, I will guess there's about between 7 and 10 people in that, maybe 15.
Any more than that for any more than that for like a team would be sort of not that easy to manage, right?
That would be a too big team. The idea with these teams, if we are going back to what the first caller was talking about, because Johnny, he was talking about this development style with small teams and small, fast-moving teams, and how the burn down is. And I'm putting in words now, terms most people doesn't understand, but it's just a way you're saying how many tasks have we made this quarter.
Yeah.
That is when I'm talking about the burn down or something like that.
Like for me, that I think from like the gameplay and adding interesting little things to do for the current time is the only place where I think like taking backer money and hiring more devs might solve a solution. That's the only situation where I think just throw more devs at it could be a thing.
Eventually,
from your experience, is that a possibility now, or like you just said, eventually?
I don't think it's possible now, because the main thing I think why we can't loop people and all of that is because things is so hard to make physical right now without tanking the servers to the abyss. That's simply thing is the server tech that is the main holder of everything, as it has been for the last 2 years.
They've already done it with the Grey Cat Rock. So why not apply a little button that you press on a character and it brings up the menu?
Yeah, you mean doing that way? They could probably do it through there, and then they have a different server to communicate between you two people. But is that what they want in the future, or do they want you to take it out of their wherever it's located on the body? Because that is actually what I think they want you to do, so it's physicalized on your person and you're interacting with it.
Yeah, like I pull the grenade off of
that
you.
Extra system.
Pull, like we can do that sort of with the like weapons they have, but that's really it so far.
Yeah, every time you're dropping a person, their weapon is sort of physicalized as a different entity.
Yeah, but not everything is.
Yeah, and then everything should be a different entity, which just should be interactive, but will exponentially increase the entities on the server. Because I think the entities is not spawned when they're dropping it's actually one they're carrying.
Okay.
So it's because the server won't spawn it.
Okay.
The way it's set up, it doesn't spawn it. It is just physicalized all the time.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I in general, like after talking to everybody, I obviously feel a little bit more positive. But overall, it's going to be a rough 3 months, but 3.14 looks really exciting.
I'm also
big things on the horizon.
quite excited because they now have they made that IC where the two teams one to go into salaries and one going into was it medical, or what was the other team going into?
The same team that was touching on salvage talked about talked about
that it was
medical.
Refueling, yes.
No, medical. The medical guys seem to be the same people
Yeah.
touching on salvage, because it appears that salvage is only going to start with like the multi tool, or a handheld tool, and then or like some form of weapon. So that falls under that Johnny Jasivius guy, and then the refueling is going to be under the guys who did mining, is what it looks like.
And that team, I think they have a quite good track record, because last time we were seeing them doing this, was it about half a year or something before we saw mining in game and had hands on it, or was it only 1 month or 1 quarter?
I don't know if they started. It was 3.1. I think it was either 3.1 or 3.2 when mining came in, but I don't know if they were on the quarter thing just yet. At that point,
if I remember correctly, it was quite fast after they have their ATC talk. It was in, so I hope it's the same track. They are keeping that track record up with about next quarter again. They can have it in.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it. It was still in the they're still in the design phase.
Yeah, in the design phase, but that I will guess it will only take a month for them to get out of that phase.
And then I think it would be 3.15, 3.16.
I think the design is a month, and then they have the prototype for 2 months more. So next quarter they should be out of the prototyping phase, if I should make a educated guess.
Okay, and then implementing it is
and then implementing
another quarter. Yeah. Okay, that seems fair.
It is,
but it's CIG.
Yes.
So who knows? So.
Yeah.
All right, Henrik. We're gonna do this on the podcast. Are you excited for our own game development that we're gonna do this month?
Yes, I am.
I'm very excited. Because like my wife, for people who don't know, but I'll call her Emmy for the people who do, goes, because I told her, I was like, man, I'm just not excited for 3.13. And she was like, well, just play Eco then. And I was like, I'd like to, but I really should at least give this a chance. So yeah, I'm gonna give it the old college try, 3.13, but that I'm very excited to start making our own game, basically inside of another game, Eco. So since I can't do all this stuff that we can do in Eco and Star Citizen, so yeah.
Actually, can you give me permission to change the laws so I don't need you to debug stuff?
Sure. Yes. I'll talk to you off the podcast, though. Okay.
Yes.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Later.
All right. Well, kind of a short podcast. But yeah, I mean, that's really how I feel about everything. Is I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm bored, but I think we'll get there. And I think this patch was just, honestly, like, hands down, like, raise your hand in Twitch chat, leave a comment in the section below if you got this far. The first quarter of every year should really feel this way, but in the sense of a lot of tech debt resolving in the first quarter of every year, right? And I think when I see like this is the biggest issue that I actually have with 3.13 is that there are so many long-lasting bugs that have been there for far too long, way too much tech debt piled up that going through there and maybe cleaning some of it up and saying, you know what, guys, we're not going to throw a lot of features into this patch because that is going to be our focus. 1 quarter of every year at the very least, because this stuff has to have piled up so much that it must have knock-on effects on the amount of time it takes to make progress on other things. And obviously it has a big issue with the, I don't know, like the players and the replayability and all those things. So yeah, thank you for all the callers for coming on. Old Man Johnny, we had Doc, we had Vertigo, and we had Henrik. Thank you so much, guys. If you are watching this on Twitch and you didn't catch the whole thing, it'll be up on YouTube later today. Hopefully, it won't take as long as the last one did. I'm having a lot of issues with Premiere, which I think it was Johnny who I need to talk to about that I'm going to give him some of my logs and see if we can figure out what the problem is. Just getting like huge CPU spikes, huge RAM spikes for no reason. So it's making render times for a 2-hour 1080p video 9-10 hours. It's just like not making sense, and this is all like a new thing. So yeah, I apologize for that, guys. I'm gonna do my best to get it up. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, and hopefully we have a little bit more of an interesting topic to talk about. Although I thought it was a fun podcast, I'm just looking forward to diving into like something that isn't so negative, right? Like, is Star Citizen making enough progress? Of course not. We want the game today. I'll leave it with that, guys. Leave a like, leave a comment below if you're watching on the YouTube channel. If you want to watch this live, we will be live every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Thanks for watching, guys.